If you've been watching the news all week or reading the paper, you would have seen it. Ian Foster making headlines left, right and centre, unless you've been living under a rock. He basically picked out his three favourite news reporters, and this is what he had to say on News Talk ZB. He basically is saying he doesn't think he will have the All Blacks head coaching job next year. He's reading the tea leaves and it looks like there's a mood for change. Well, Ian Foster is clearly frustrated with how things are playing out at the moment. So they're being played out in public, and joining us to talk about it is our former All Blacks captain, two-time Rugby World Cup winner and absolute legend, Kieran Read. Kieran, thank you so much for your time. Hard luck to the Crusaders on the weekend. But Ian Foster, what did you make of him coming out and doing the media rounds this week?
Yeah, look, it's interesting to see. I think, the whole thing hasn't been handled well. I think that's, so New Zealand Rugby, really all the stuff should be happening behind closed doors. So whatever, it shouldn't be aired, what both coaches or everyone that's coming out and talking shouldn't be happening, but hopefully we get to the bottom of it and through it soon.
The players have come out and said, and everyone said they don't want distractions. What would you do, Rita, if you were captain right now?
Yeah, look, I think in terms of, players don't want distractions. But to be honest, if I'm coming from a player's perspective, I think they won't mind. They don't care what happens, as long as it gets dealt with in the right way. I think the way it's being dealt with at the moment, there's distractions everywhere. So just go in and either name the new coach or don't. It's as simple as that. I don't think the players, it's not going to derail them if you name the All Black coach next week. It's for me, it's probably the best way forward.
Rita, we've heard what Fozzie's had to say, and Razor's come out and said a little bit as well a couple of weeks ago. Do you think for him on that side as well, has it distracted the Crusaders at all?
I don't think so, no. I think, Razor's Razor. I think he's in that position where, he's been maybe, I don't know, the communication between both parties or what, but, from my point of view, I think Razor's the next All Black coach. It's probably what should be happening after the World Cup. But it's just like, okay, how best do we get there? And I think probably the best way forward, if we're going to do it, if we want to look after our best coaches in the country, which Razor certainly is, then probably we just you name them, you move on, and everyone can just focus on supporting Fozzie and. Because that's what we need to do for this year is getting behind him. And, the way New Zealand Rugby are probably just letting things hang at the moment. There's probably not much support, or Fozzie probably doesn't feel like there's much support for him.
Rito, put yourself back. You're the All Black captain right now. You've talked about the disconnect. And when we've been really strong is when we had that connection between the NZR and also the players. Given everything that's happened, not just the coaches' stuff, the stuff that's happened last year with the disconnect, do you think the NZR can actually win the changing room back after all this?
Look, I'm not sure of the exact ins and outs that are happening there. I do know there's that disconnect, and you can see it. It's palpable, what's happening there. And I think that's, the communication from New Zealand Rugby, I think, has got to improve. The players' point of view, I think, look, you want to have the team behind you. You want, to know that your coaches are being looked after and things like that. So, I hope it galvanises them for this year, and really, they back Fozzie, which was evident last year, and they've got an awesome opportunity to go to a World Cup later in the year and show what they're capable of.
There's quite a few players moving on. Rita, I know you moved on a little while ago. Are you worried about it? You just think it's time now? We've got some of our leaders moving. Are we going to look at a year next year where we're just going to have to rebuild and we should just get used to it?
Look, I think it is, the World Cup year probably becomes a natural end for a lot of players, and it was in my case, and, certainly a few guys this year as well, I guess. But what New Zealand Rugby doesn't lack is the talent, which is awesome. And so as long as you've got enough leadership sprinkled through the squad, that's going to carry on next year, which, we're going to be dented a little bit with a few guys going to Japan who could potentially still be playing, good enough footy to be playing in the All Black jersey. But I'm sure there'll be enough talent around, or leaders around, to make sure people can, come on and do what's needed for the jersey.
Rita, I just want to ask you one thing. Like you speak about players moving on. We've got massive depth Is someone like Richie going worry you though?
Yeah, it does. It's. I guess it doesn't worry me because I know what the situation he's in, and I can kind of feel for, the decision he's made there. But those guys there, he could play another 4 years or more in the All Black jersey, and create a dynasty. Create a real legacy for himself and his story in the All Black jersey, which he won't potentially have now. So you're a little bit kind of it's disappointing not to see that from him. But I totally understand, and as a player, I backed everyone when they made their decision because they got their own individual things that are going on. So it's just a case of what happens there.
Kieran, is it just part of the modern game? We're talking about coaches now that are probably getting offered contracts for November. Is it just part of the modern game that we need to get used to? Players are going to go early, coaches are going to have contracts on the table, and we're just going to have to make earlier decisions. Is that just the way it is?
I think that's the way it is, and I think you've seen that. Players probably now are maybe reticent to sign those really long contracts, or if they do, they put in the clauses to go away or things like that. So, look, if England and Aussie hadn't got rid of their coaches end of last year, then if we hadn't signed Razor up, he'd be gone. Because they would have signed him up now, I'm sure. So, probably the fact that they've locked in their coaches has made this decision, maybe not so have to be as quick. But, it's just the way of the world, I think, and everything that's happening in rugby is certainly going that way.
Rita, can I just ask one thing? We've spoken about the coaching group from New Zealand, and you've gone against this guy multiple times. What do you think about Eddie Jones going back to the Wallabies?
It's a scary proposition, I think. He is a world-renowned coach at international level, and what he did with England when he first took over them, in 1 year they didn't lose 16 times in a row or something. So he has an immediate impact. So that's certainly could revive a bit of what Australia can do. Whether I don't see them going on and winning big games in the World Cup, but he'll have an impact on them.
Kieran, it's so great to have you on the program to tap into that experience. And now, who's the Street Fighter fan?
Yeah, that's me, and the kids have a go every now and then.
Who's got the high score?
I hope you beat them.
Dad's got the high score.
Thank you so much, Kieran. Great to have you on the program.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Shots good.
Absolutely so lucky to delve into that treasure trove of knowledge. Kieran Read, some really interesting things said in that. His endorsement ringing for Scott Robertson to take over the All Blacks role next year. Best coach in New Zealand, JK. Should they make that decision now, go early or not? What do you think?
I think distraction is a non-decision. You make a decision, then there is no distraction. There is a decision. So, I've had some voce di corridoio.
It's back.
Yeah, I think the NZR, if you have heard loud and clear, I think it's a contractual and personal issue. Whether you believe we should go early or not, and I was in the school that says wait, the NZR, they need to make a decision. They should make that decision and go for it. And if they go for it, there's lots of reasons why. But I do think it's a human issue, right? We need to get behind Fozzie, we need to get behind this team, and they don't need distractions. So for me, it's make the decision, and I believe, this is coming from me now, I believe they will make that very quickly, and it will go early. They'll decide on the coach pretty quick, I reckon, within the next month, and then we'll all know. That's what I believe will happen.
Is that what should happen?
I think so. I mean, it's all out there now, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is, when you talk about distraction, it's not news that NZRU would be wanting to welcome either. I mean, it's been hanging around for the last couple of weeks. It needs to happen because, as Rito said, we've got to now get behind the coach. I mean, Brad Weber said, we're sort of learning off Northern Hemisphere and what they're doing. This is what Fozzie has to concentrate on, not sort of whether, who's going to coach next year and all the other things that's topical. I mean, we should be trying to get in behind these guys and see, to make sure we absolutely behind them 100% to go to the World Cup, not whether who's going to coach this, when the decision's absolutely being made. It needs to be made for a number of different reasons.
So you think it's more of a distraction waiting?
I think it is. I think now that it's out like the way it is, it's way more of a distraction. We've never had this in Rugby World Cup yet.
Bizarre.
It is. We've never had where they've come out and said we're going to have a review and we're naming the All Black coach, and then they don't. We've actually just gone, and if they lose, usually the coach is gone.
But Fozzie wants the job clearly next year.
And that's the other side of it, you know. So, man, he must be pretty strong mentally, because after what he's been through, and then he still obviously wants that job, because if you take your name out of the hat, then obviously that distraction for him is gone, and he doesn't have to bite in all the questions that's being asked. But from his comments, it sounds like he still wants to be the coach.
So is he going to put his hat in the ring then if they go and interview for this job in the next few weeks?
Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is. And I think the way it's played out, it has to now become early. We have to shoot early, you know. And like you said, it's a time now that it hasn't been done before. I mean, normally, you know, we've been so good and so solid from the top down, and for some reason or another, whether it be COVID or all these other outside influences or whatever the case may be, because the way it's all gone now, I think we have to get solidarity. We have to either name it now and be done, like you say, get behind Fozzie.
I just go to your point about guys, or we mentioned it, guys going away. I mean, surely a coach that's going to be here for the future, you know, Richie Moonga, you know, 4 or 5 years in the All Black, surely he should have an influence about who we should pump some of that resource or that money, you know, rather than sort of him going away for $2 million. Haven't we got a coach that can say, man, can't we pour all the resources to try and keep that guy? Because this is a guy that's going to not only bring his own legacy, but he's going to actually filter down that legacy to the new guys coming through, and not have a sort of a massive exodus of guys that just go because we haven't got a coach that's been named for the future, to then sort of say, well, we want to be able to keep 2 or 3 guys to continue that part of the legacy in the All Black jersey.
Look, players are coming out early now and saying they're going, and we all accept that. I think maybe it's just the times, and we need to get used to it. But indecision creates distraction, so we need to make the decision, get it done. And it is February, you know? Yeah, true. Right? We've still got a long way to go.
I still want to know what corridor you actually go down to hear these things, mate. Hey?
Take you some time, mate.
Yeah, in the group.
You need wine, good cheese, and the odds again.
Sounds like a great place to be. The Eddie Jones comments make you nervous?
Yeah, it does
Instant
actually.
impact, doesn't it?
And that's the thing that why I asked the question, because everywhere he's gone to, that next 12 to 60 months, he's improved the teams that he's gone to, and we know he goes all right at a World Cup. And
You're looking
I'm scared because these Aussies have already shown us they get it right.
They will play to their maximum, but I don't know if he's got the cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.